Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and with just a few short days until the Defenders update is out, we get the patch notes, we get to see the live stream with Cage and Kim. I wanted to discuss three things that I hope to see in the update in one form or another. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm already really excited about the update. I think it's great that they're focusing on the Defenders and that they're reworking these sort of forgotten characters, and I really love the theme and the thematic elements of the Defenders, Hell's Kitchen, yada yada yada, you know, Power Man and Iron Fist and stuff like that. And Icarus is really cool with the Eternals too. So I'm not saying that this update has to have these things that I want to discuss with you guys, but I do think that these things are not only things that the community wants, but also things that I think would be really cool if they were added to the game. So the first one, you're probably wondering what it has to do with Killmonger and these villains like Hela and Maximus. Although all of these characters could use reworks, it's probably not appropriate to rework them or to ask for them to be reworked in this particular update. No, the reason why I'm auto-playing some Shadowland here for you guys is the Shadowland Shop. We've talked about it a lot, and we have that very infamous dev note where the devs basically said, you don't really know what you want. You think you want the Shadowland Shop, but you actually don't. And although they never really, showed us any information, data, or statistics that explained why they thought that they knew better than us what we wanted, I still kind of, scratch my head and wonder where they came up with that. I don't think that was just pure, pride and audacity. I do think that maybe they have data that shows players are more engaged on some level with random rewards. And I can kind of understand that if all of your rewards are 100% guaranteed, it's going to sound crazy, but basically, if you know exactly what you're going to get every single time in every single game mode in a game, it starts to feel kind of wow, that was really fast. It starts to feel procedural, and it starts to just feel like, you press A and then B happens, and it starts to feel more like just this unending grind. Whereas, I mean, the game is still grindy, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. There's something about a random reward now and then that can sort of mix things up, right? Because sometimes you don't get very good random rewards, and you're like, dang. But then other times you get a really good random reward, like you pull the exact premium card that you need from that 600 token chest after grinding GBR and grinding the battle pass, or the 28-day check-in is about to finish. We're about to get the CTP. Let's say you pull a rage from that, or you pull an energy from that, and like boom, and you get this sudden rush of excitement knowing that you just got something really good. Obviously, there's other factors at play involved in that feeling, but if you knew, if let's say it rotated every month between all the CTPs, right? And like this month was energy for everyone, and the next month was rage for everyone. It might not feel as cool or as fun when you get it. That's just, to play devil's advocate, to just maybe give them, because they never explained it, right? The devs never explained in the dev note why they thought we didn't want the Shadowland Shop. But anyways, having said all of that, I do still think we want the Shadowland Shop, and I personally do want the Shadowland Shop, and I think, although this is not the stage 36 and up of Shadowland that gives you those tokens, I think this is the really prime example of why we want the Shadowland Shop. The thing that makes Shadowland stage 1 to 35 so successful is the fact that you know what you're going to get. So that's why people play. That's why the whatever daily active users or the engagement rate of Shadowland 1 to 35 is so high. I would guess it's one of the most played game modes after like World Boss Ultimate and stuff like that. But I would guess it's one of the most played game modes because from 1 to 35, and you can even see, the thing is, not only do you know what you're gonna get, but you can choose. For whatever reason, if you are demented and you don't want the 80,000 gold, so that you can keep complaining to all your friends that you don't have enough gold in Marvel Future Fight. I hope no one out there actually does this. But anyways, you could choose the Nornstone selector. You could be oblivious to the fact that you can get 150 or 200 free Nornstones every single day in the Rift token shop, absolutely for free. And you'd rather get 40 more random, 40 more Nornstones of your selecting. You get my point, right? If you want, you can choose that. And that's what we want, especially in Shadowland after stage 35. Now, yeah, Shadowland does mix it up. It's half random, it's half guaranteed. I kind of get that, but on top of the Shadowland Shop, which I still really want, and I know a lot of players still really want the Shadowland Shop, it'd be very cool to see a few more Shadowland stages added. Again, I'm not expecting the Shadowland stages to be added. The updates have already had a lot of stuff in them, and all of these uniforms are basically top to bottom reworks for these characters in the first place. So, it is a lot, but it was really hype. When stage 30 to 35 got those new things, it breathed new life into character types that we currently are paying attention to that we weren't at the time. Like, there's so much more value on characters like Kid Omega and Scarlet Spider-Man, and to an extent any other character that has the Phoenix Force tag or the Spider Sense tag, because of that Shadowland stage. That one stage a week gives you an incentive to build up these characters, and that's what I would love to see more of. So that's sort of the first thing that I wanted to briefly discuss, because the Defenders update, right? Because the guy at the top of Shadowland in the comics is supposed to be Daredevil. I mean, it is Daredevil, and it is in the game as well. I wanted to bring this up to you guys because I know a lot of people have talked about it, and they think, oh, it's a Defenders update, we should be getting new Shadowland content, we should be getting these things. We don't necessarily have to get them, but obviously now is the most thematic time to get them, considering that it's Daredevil, he's getting a tier 3, he's the guy in Shadowland. The game mode basically comes from that run involving him and a couple of other characters. So yeah, that is sort of the first thing that I am sort of privately crossing my fingers and hoping that we do see more of. The second thing that I hope to see in this update, from the perspective of it being a Defenders update and the theme and that sort of team, is something that the devs have been really, really good about doing in a lot of updates. They haven't done it in every single update, and they haven't done it for every single group of characters. For example, they sort of skipped Asgardians, but one really good example of what I'm talking about is the ability and support tags specific to these different groupings. So although they're not really associated in any other way besides being part of the Dark Avengers, they gave the Dark Avengers tag here, the Dark Avengers ability, to, Sentry, Moonstone, Green Goblin, and a couple of other characters, which allows them to take advantage of his leadership, the 60% all attack, and his passive ability. Now, there's more ways where these things can intersect, and it'd be cool if there were more characters, or it was sort of divvied up in a different way, because right now it kind of feels like the Dark Avengers tag is just to give him value with this uniform in order to become both a leadership and support. So if, let's say, like Ares or Dakin or Scorpion had this passive, it would sort of split it up a little bit better, sort of like how, I think one of the best implementations of this was with the Fantastic Four, which I hope to see more of, where he has the leadership for the Fantastic Four allies, which also includes people outside of the family. You've got She-Hulk, old uni, you've got Crystal's newest uni, you've got Moon's girl's uniform as well, I believe Moon Girl's uniform. But anywho, you have the leadership here for Mr. Fantastic, but then for Thing, you have that passive ability that gives you, some pretty decent effects, right? All attack, decrease reflect, super armor, some really, really nice stuff there. So they sort of divvied it up rather than making it all in one character. So I really hope to see that for, of course, the Defenders, right? Now, again, we might not get that. It's a very small group of characters, very, very small group of characters. You've got Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Daredevil. And if you go back in the comics, the Defenders weren't actually, like, the Netflix Defenders is not how the team first started. Like the old Defenders team had like Doctor Strange and other characters in it in the comics. So that could be a reason why we don't get the Defenders tag at all, because it doesn't actually thematically only include those characters, and they're not going to retroactively give the Defenders tag to every single character. It's sort of like the Avengers tag, right? Like, so many characters have been Avengers that it's kind of doesn't make sense. On the one hand, you could argue, okay, it doesn't make sense, but we could just give it to like the OG MCU 6, right? Captain America, Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. We could just do those guys there. But then you're like, yeah, but Captain Marvel was leader of the Avengers for a long time. There's the new Avengers. Do we differentiate? There's the young Avengers. Do we differentiate for them as well? There's the West Coast Avengers, and people have wanted a West Coast Avengers update for a while too. So it kind of gets messy. The Defenders obviously are not quite as large and widespread and popular as Defenders, but it's something that I would like to see to sort of differentiate these characters a little bit more. Another thing, just to piggyback off of that, is I would like to see passives that maybe could apply to everyone. Let's say a Defender's passive or an Avenger's passive, but it has a much more enhanced effect when it's applied to actual Defender's allies. So this would be one way to sort of still highlight the team, but acknowledge the fact that it's a much wider scope thing. So for example, let's say this Power Man passive, it says applies to self, he gives reflect and damage reduction. Let's say for all allies, he gives them, 20% damage reduction. Just 20% damage reduction. But then for all Defenders allies, he's going to give them 40%, so double the damage reduction, and he's going to give them some of his reflect. So it's sort of like Luke Cage being like, this, I'll protect any member, but the defenders are really like, my homies, my family, right? So, or something Daredevil related or whatever, it doesn't really matter what the buff is, so to speak, but having like different tiers of the buff, I think would be a really cool way to maybe acknowledge some of these larger teams like the Avengers, but also acknowledge, this current group is like the OG group or whatever. And I mean, for more casual Marvel fans, they're going to recognize the Defenders as Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, not as like Doctor Strange and whoever else it was in the original group, like way back years and years and years ago. The final thing that I would sort of hope to see a little bit more of, and I sort of touched on it briefly in the original update or the original video talking about Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, is the combo attacks. And people have sent me in suggestions on Discord and stuff, talking about combo attacks between Luke Cage and Danny Rand, talking about combo attacks between this character and that character, but this is a perfect example, right? It's so subtle, it's so brief, but it's just so satisfying. I just love these types of attacks, right? You see Colossus with Wolverine, you see Rogue having all these combo attacks. There's tons of characters that have combo attacks now. And I ask for this sort of personally, but at the same time I acknowledge there's a ton of characters in the game that have really, really good attacks, really good animations, and they don't have any combos. So they don't need to have combo attacks. I think it would be cool on the one hand, but on the other hand, they can do amazing things without having anyone else show up in the skills. So, maybe it's a little bit easier to do these sort of combo skills for characters that are mostly physically based, whereas with characters that are more cosmically or energy based, they can create all of these effects on their own and they don't require things to be crowded by others. But yeah, it's something that I go back and forth on. I really like the combo attacks, but I also really like it when a character is just gorgeous on their own and has just like super dope animations. I mean, he's not really alone. He's got the dragons, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of those 3 ideas: the Shadowland Shop, TM pending, the combo attacks that I briefly discussed, and then the Defenders tag, or the idea of having like a 2-tiered system for those tags, sort of how you have like a tier 1 and a tier 2 passive, right? Maybe the general Defenders tag would just apply to all allies with a small buff, and then for the 4 Defenders specifically, it would confer a much larger or the full effect of the buff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.